These are beetroots. We're painting beetroot today. I heard this is also seasonal produce, so this is seasonal produce, at least for the month of November. Oh no, October. It's October. So I thought it'd be fun. And then for the very last class this month, we'll be doing the pumpkins. So if you have your own pumpkins, you can bring them and even paint them or use them for your own reference. So yeah, there's that tomorrow. If you have artwork, give it to Jocelyn or Tanya directly. And it's got to be artwork from this classroom or other activities you've participated in here. So I think they're also collecting ceramics projects from the ceramics class. And then, hi. So I think besides that, I wanted to briefly mention, I have a YouTube channel. I mentioned this yesterday too in the art class, the other art class, but this is useful if you've missed a class and you want to catch up or review something that you've attended. I've been uploading all of my videos that I've recorded, that it's essentially what you see on the screen here. Every class, they're all on YouTube here. And my channel is called Art with Cassie. Art with Cassie. So if you look that up, you should be able to see all these past videos. I'm trying to upload them every week, hopefully. Any questions about this so far? Okay. Well, I'm going to begin with a little bit of focus with a meditation bowl. So we'll just take a moment to do some deep breathing, get centered and grounded. I know it was a little bit of a rush getting started this morning. We'll just breathe in some calm and peace. Oh yeah, sure. And just set your intention for today's painting, what you want to experience. You want to just have some fun pushing paint, mixing them, watching them flow, or learning something new. And if you want to let go of any perfectionism or being hypercritical of yourself, I highly recommend it. And let yourself enjoy the painting process. Okay, thanks for doing that with me. Helps me calm my nerves too. Okay, so today you'll notice you should have a pencil, a really small wooden pencil. I've got a mechanical one here, but I thought today we could start with a sketch. Usually I have us go straight in to the painting with no sketch, but I think it's a good exercise to draw it in as well. So we've got this for reference, and then I've also got this sample painting as a preview of what we can be doing. And as usual, we've got this small sheet for warm-ups and testing stuff out, and then this one can be for the larger piece. So what I would do is, let's start with the sketch, and then go ahead and practice our warm-up painting on here for a little bit. So the sketch is, let's think about it in simple shapes. The beetroot is essentially circles. Some of them are maybe a little bit flatter and a little bit oval-like. You can see in the reference here, for example, this one's a bit more squashed. So they don't have to be perfect circles. In fact, it's probably better if they're wobbly so that they look more natural. And what I've done in this composition here is I've put one on this lower left-hand corner and one on the upper right. I think I need to have this a little bit higher so you can see my full page. Let's try this. There we go. Okay. So what I would do is lightly sketch a circle around here. And mine is so big, I would say it's just a little bit smaller than my palm actually. Try to eyeball this. And just FYI, circles can be really difficult to draw. So it might take some finessing to get it around the smoothness or the shape that you like. And at the bottom, you can put a little bit of a root here. I have this here for reference, and you also have the printout. One circle there in the corner. See if I can see what it's happening. Okay. Oops. Once you have this circle here, we can go ahead and add the stems and the leaves, making sure to leave some space on this side so that we can paint in this piece right here. I'm going to start with drawing really long lines for the stem, and they can extend into the leaf because we will be painting this all the way through. So let's do maybe one big curve there, and then you can do a few more that are curved in slightly different ways. Some of them can be just a very long, like elongated C curve. Some are like really stressed out S curves. You can kind of play with it, as long as I'd recommend that it goes in one general direction. So all of these are generally going this way. And I'm going to go with maybe about 5 there. Make sure it looks full. And once you've got those lines in, we can make these very large, flowy shapes for the leaves. They can be very loose and kind of, I wouldn't say random, but you can kind of have these raggedy edges going which way in that. And they're generally like, I think it's almost like a paddle shape. I'm going to start with this longest one I have here and make one big leaf. Maybe make this a little bit wobbly. And you can do the same with the rest. Maybe make some of them a bit smaller. And it's okay if they overlap. In fact, I encourage the overlap for making it look more full. And for those of you who are not familiar with this eraser, it's a kneaded eraser. And it can be molded to the shape that you like, just like putty. And this can be dabbed or rubbed on the surface to erase. By dabbing, I mean just pressing down and lifting, in case you have any mistakes you want to correct. And if I haven't mentioned this before, if you can sketch lightly, but not so hard that it looks very, very dark, it might look a bit better. That's if you don't want the outlines to show. So if you started out with a very dark drawing, you can lighten it by gently dabbing on here. You can see mine's getting a bit lighter from that dabbing here. And once you finish this part, we can add, this is optional, but we can add one more circle here as a sliced piece of beetroot, just like the one in this picture in my sample here. I'd recommend putting it near the center, maybe closer to this one, just to make sure there's enough space for the beetroot that will be on this side. And this can be about the same size as the first one or smaller, depending on how you want your composition and what fits. I think I'll make mine a little bit smaller. And when this is complete, we'll flip this over and draw the same thing. I'll come take a look-see. Morning. How's everyone doing? You're looking nice. Hi. Great. Hi, Jim. Welcome in. We just got started with drawing. And you're welcome to sit in the back too. Yeah, we have room. Okay. Now I'm gonna flip this 180, so this is upside down, and draw the exact same thing I did for the first beetroot. So bottom left corner, circle, and then stems and leaves coming up on top. This is a loose sketch here. Maybe I'll make this one more oval. One more lopsided. Thanks, Beth. Draw this quickly. Oh yeah. You can kind of imagine them as they're almost like these smoke-like clouds coming out from the stem, and they're billowing out. They're quite loose and wavy, so you can kind of play around with the shape. There's really no wrong way to do this one. Hi, just making sure you have everything. Okay, I'll grab you one more thing here. Good to have paper towel and, ooh, you already have that one. Okay. You're welcome. This is for reference if you'd like to use it. It's extra paper. Okay. Okay, there's lead. Okay. So, now that we have this sketch done, does anyone have any questions on this sketch or have any requests for help or anything? All right, well then I'm going to set this aside. This will be our little test sheet. We'll just work on this a little bit because I think this will take up about half the class time to finish. We'll just warm up on here, test out some colors, and practice controlling the water. So the technique for this is to actually first lay down just clean water. It can be a bit tinted, but I'm putting down a circle right here. And on our drawing, we'll just fill in that circle that we drew with this. But I want to show you this blooming effect that we've been practicing with wet on wet. So here's the wet part from, you can see the shiny part. The main colors for this are going to be this red here. It actually becomes a kind of like a pink when we use it. I'm going to pick up quite a bit of it just rubbing back and forth here. And then you'll see here that it'll bloom. If I don't have it too wet, it won't spread out everywhere. We'll practice some water control. So let's say we want this color on one side. And then so I have a layer of clear water as a circle. And then right on top I put this red that's next to the light green. I didn't even add water to this because I want it to be very, very saturated. So I'm using the water that's already in my brush from adding this clear water, clean water circle here. That's the first color. The second color that you see on here almost looks like a purple. It's actually black mixed in with a little bit of that red. So whenever you're ready, after you've tried putting on this little red here, grab a little black. And the black, I don't want it to be completely black, so I'm going to rinse out my brush and then just pick up some of it and use more water for more of a watery consistency. I know I'm going kind of fast, but it's just to show you what it looks like if we use the wet on wet technique here. This should actually be mixed with a little bit of red, I forgot. So that just looks like straight gray. There we go. Wherever you leave a white gap is what can be the highlight on the beetroot. You'll see that on my sample here. I have it on the upper right. So that's a shiny part from the light hitting that. So this is just a little, this is a practice with the water control here. You can see that on my blackish area. I have a lot of water. It's puddling. It's a little bit too much, so I'm just gonna soak that right up. Remember, if you have too much water, you can always soak it up with the corner of a paper towel, or if you dry out your brush a little bit, you can use your brush to soak it up. We'll just spend maybe 5 minutes practicing this. And the leaves are the same technique, so you don't need to practice that one if you're practicing this. Same goes for this one that's chopped. Clear, clean water first and then color on top. Is there anyone who's stuck on this part? This technique can be very tricky. How you doing, Pat? Hey, you've got it here.
Yeah,
that's blending. Yeah,
that's getting better.
yeah. May I suggest one thing?
Yeah.
If you'd like it to be a very vivid color, I would use even more pigment and just rub your brush in here a lot to pick up more.
Okay. So here you mean?
Yeah, and if you don't mind, you can even try, well, actually, this is still wet. You can put it on the edge there.
On the edge?
Yeah. So that
Oh,
is
yeah,
already
that
much more
better.
vivid. And if you
Yeah.
want it even more vivid and more saturated, you can just pick up even more paint. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I started out with putting the I missed
Oh, yeah.
that you put down water though.
Uh-huh. And then while it was still wet, which is just from it being shiny,
Yeah.
then I added the paint on top. That's what makes the paint spread.
What was that purple?
You know, I actually just used the same color, but added some black to it. I made it more of like a purplish color. Yeah. How's it going? No. Can I help you? Or can I demonstrate for you on your paper? Okay. I know this is kind of challenging here. So I'll do it on the small one. On here I'm just gonna add, see, Actually, this side's more rough. Let's use the more rough side for the texture. And this brush is a little bit stiff because it's brand new. I'm laying down just a circle of water. It's hard to see, and if it's too hard to see, we can add a little pigment, but if you hold it and tilt it a bit, you can see the shine. If it's too hard, it's okay to do this. I'm adding a little bit of that red color. Now you can kind of see it. And this is quite wet. We don't want it to puddle too much because then all the color is going to be kind of going crazy with that puddle. So I'm going to dry this out a little bit. I can do that by drying this out and doing this. Kind of lifts it up. Okay, so now this is all wet and shiny. I'm going to get a little bit more water and get a lot of this red. You can see I'm rubbing back and forth in here a lot to get a lot of pigment in here. And then when I put this on here, it'll start to bloom and spread. And that's only because the paint is wet and the surface is wet. Yeah. You can go ahead and give that a try. Let me clean this up for you. Okay, here you go. You're welcome. Okay. Just as a tip for some more realism or to make it more shiny, one thing you can do is add even more shadow on the shadow side. So my purplish area is pretty much one shade or one tone, but if I add a little bit more black here, let's say I put it on the underside, it'll create some more shadow, like so. Yes, watercolor dries a little bit lighter. You can try adding this for a more 3D effect. Another tip I can give you is, at least on my sample here, I made the edges very saturated or dark, and that gives the appearance of it having a roundedness in comparison to the center area where it's lighter. Just some pointers there for you. After you've maybe practiced on one or two of these, I'd recommend getting started on this one, on this larger sheet. You can do the exact same thing. So one layer of clean water, and if it's too hard for you to see, you can give it a little bit of a pink tint. I'm going to do that here to show you what I mean. So this is actually, it's a little muddy from the black. Let me clean this up. I have to rinse my brush quite a bit. Yeah, just a little bit of tint to make it easier to see. And if you don't like that tint on certain parts, you can actually take a paper towel to dab it to remove it and bring in some white. For watercolor, we're producing white as a through negative space here. Okay, so here's my tinted one. Yeah, it makes it much easier to see. At home when I'm painting and putting on these clear layers, you'll see me like going like this, trying to see where the edges are. It's a little bit tricky. Let me put this back up here for reference. I'm going to try to move relatively or fairly quickly to make sure this is still wet. As long as it's shiny, it's still wet enough for the wet on wet technique. I'm going to put this very saturated red on the very edge. Make it look more round. And then at the bottom, I'm going to have this little root sticking out. You can also add in a couple more lines for roots. Different colors. You can use a little bit of the black. I keep using this red. And to produce the white, if you've got this tint, you've got to dab it before it dries. So I've folded my paper towel and I'm doing this now to make it lighter. You can kind of dab extremely gently to just lift a little bit, or you can press down to remove more. So again, if you've got this little bit of a tint and you want to have a white spot for your highlight, I'd use a little bit of your paper towel, fold it up, and just basically erase the paint that's here. Lift it off. Now I'm going to move on to adding my black. My black's bleeding quite a bit because it's pretty watery on my brush. I'm going to dry out my brush a little bit. Remember, this dries a little bit lighter, so paint a bit darker than you intend it to look. That also means paint more saturated as well, because watercolor dries more muted too. So it's basically duller overall once it dries. You can push the saturation in that case, how intense the color is. Remember, before you, if you want to be testing out how your colors look, you can always just make a mark on your paper with your brush before you apply it to the larger painting. Mm. There are some artists, watercolor painters, who have 2 cups of water. One is for the dirty water like we have here, and then one is for just using clean water in the painting. Oh, cool. Yeah, I've seen some water painting cups that have a divide. Yeah, so you have 2 reservoirs of water. That can be helpful. Anyone got questions? Ooh,
I'm just waiting for this to dry and then I'll put the
yeah. Yeah, that's a great blend right there. Very smooth.
I just followed what you did.
Yay!
Oh, and I already made a pumpkin. Pumpkin I made.
Oh, wow.
I did
Is that acrylic or watercolor?
No, it's watercolor. I did that in my apartment.
Wow, look at you.
I was really
Improving every week. I show Suzanne. That's very nice.
Oh my God, that's great.
Oh, well done, everybody. Everyone's got a hang of the technique, I can see. Yeah. No? You're doing great. Excellent.
So you're going to do the same thing with the leaves.
Yes, just different colors.
Lightly tinted so you can see it.
You could do that, yeah. Before I do the leaves, though, I'm going to paint in the stems and then paint the leaves kind of on top of it. Also, No, because just because I like this effect, if you look at this closely, you can see this is kind of blurry because it's not in focus. Wait, maybe focus here. So I painted these lines on here while this was still wet, and it's a little bit blurry. That was the effect I was going for. If you don't want that, the stems could go last, I guess. But it's kind of fun. Yeah, the stems I'll show you right now. It's just straight color. So using the same colors to make this beetroot bottom bit, I'm going to be using the red and then the red mixed with a little black for some parts. You can kind of pick and choose which ones are more purple and which ones are more red. So I'm just going to paint this through to the bottom of the leaf. So I'm not painting it all the way through. Maybe I'll just add a little bit of black on top of some of these to make it more purple-like. Oops. Getting this steady is a little bit tricky. And you can make some of these stems thicker than others. It's up to you. Mine bled into here a little bit, which I didn't mean to do. I can kind of fix it. Okay. I think I overheard someone. Is it too wet? Can I see? On this area?
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's just, it dried a little bit as you were applying the paint, so. I see. Well, one thing we can do to kind of smooth it out is if we actually reapply a layer of the water, yeah.
Really?
And then paint even, I would say another round or layer on top of that to smooth it out.
Put water on top of this and then
If you'd like, I can demonstrate for you on here. It's just a way to even out the consistency of the water on there. So we're basically gonna just apply another layer. At first it'll look like it's just messing it up. I promise I'm not messing it up. Sometimes this happens to me where I have it's uneven because some parts are drier, some parts are wetter, so I will re-wet the surface essentially to even it out. Yeah, there's a little bit of puddle here, so I'm going to remove it by drying this off and then picking it up like this. And then I'm going to go back and I actually used this color. Would you mind if I? Okay, I think you got more of this one. Yeah, okay. It's more magenta. Okay. So then we can go back and kind of cover up what we had here. And then just let it puddle like that? I'm trying not to have puddles, but a little bit I think is okay depending on the effect you're going for. And I'm going to use a lot of paint. You see how much I'm picking up? It's very vivid when I do it that way. Well, that would scare me to death. Okay. And then for this part, I just added a little bit of black, which is this one.
That's the black.
It's a mix of these two. Oh yeah, that looks like black, but
it's not, huh?
Yeah, and that's why it's helpful to test out the colors on here.
Yeah, okay, like, you're right.
Pick up some color, try it out on here, and then put it on there.
Oh, okay, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, this worries me but go ahead.
Which part worries you?
Okay, it's okay to puddle like that.
It's not puddling now, but I did make this part much more saturated and darker. If you want to remove that, we could actually.
You just go back over them.
Yeah, with a brush that's a bit drier, like that. So.
Oh, okay.
You can move it around like this to smooth it out. But while it's still wet, you want to add the
now, how did
black
you make
and red.
The black?
So it's a mix of these two.
Okay.
It's mostly, I think, mostly black with a little bit of the red. So you'll see when I mix this right here, it turns into this kind of color.
But that's not black, though.
This is black.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
Oh, I got fooled by the green there.
No, this one is black. It's in the corner,
Okay.
opposite of the white, if that helps.
I was using this one over here.
Yeah.
I thought that was black.
So that's why you've got a purple color.
Yeah, right.
So with this one, we've got, it's more...
Okay, so you shouldn't be afraid of putting a lot of water on it.
Exactly, yeah. I think starting out, I also didn't use enough water, and it was a little dry, and it wasn't blending. So you gotta, I recommend experimenting with different levels of water to find the balance. Yeah, don't be afraid to use a lot. That way you'll learn what's too much and what's too little, or what you need. Okay. Okay, thanks for waiting, everybody. So once we've got these stems in, we can do the same thing we did with the beetroot and apply a layer of either clean water or just it can be clean water with a tint of green if you want it to be easier to see. I think I might need new water here. I had used a mix of the light green, which is this one. And I used a little bit of this and even a tad bit of brown to make it a more warm green. For this initial layer, I would probably use the lighter green, just so it doesn't stand out too much. I think I need a new paper towel. Here's my layer of green. I've made it a little bit muddy, but I don't mind that color. It's going to be very faint compared to the green I'm about to add. This is like a reddish green, almost brown. Let me get a new paper towel. Does anyone need more paper towel? Yeah? Okay. Everyone's so messy. Just kidding. Thank you. You're welcome. Does anyone else want more paper towel? I'm just going to give you big handfuls here.
Good.
You're welcome. Yeah? Here. All good. That was me, my butterfingers. More paper towel here?
Sure.
Okay. Doesn't hurt. Okay, initial layer of what can be green or this brownish color I have. And then on the edges, I'm going to add more saturated greens. So similar to the beetroot where I have it really red, I'm going to just use a lot of green pigment. Put it on the edges while it's still wet to let it bleed. I'm going to put some light green on some parts and then a little bit of darker green on others just to give it some variety. And some of these I'll mix in a little bit of brown to make it more of a like foresty green. I just like to have a few varieties and hues of green here to make it look a bit more lively. And you can fill this in all the way or kind of leave it patchy like I am, where I'm leaving the center a little bit white. That's up to you. That's like a stylistic preference. And then I'm just going to go ahead and do the other ones as well. For some of these, I'm just going to paint like a flat green, like this one. Maybe for the rest of these, actually. I'm leaving like also a little bit of a white gap to separate these leaves, but that's optional. And now I'm noticing my drawing. I didn't make this look as full as I would like to have, so I'm just going to add some more leaves that I didn't even draw in here. Make up for that. And whenever you complete that part, you can take the red again and draw in the veins of the leaves. And I'm using a relatively dry brush, so I just rinsed my brush in the water, then actually dried it on my paper towel, then picked up pigment. And I did that so that this does not bleed too much when I lay it on. So a more dry brush for this part does help with the detail. Now you know how to paint the beetroot. You can do the same thing for the second one. And if there's anything you were dissatisfied with for your first beetroot, you can think about how you would do the second one differently. If you maybe use too much water, try using less on the second one, or vice versa. I'm going to go ahead and paint this one in. Removing puddles with paper towel and also a dry brush. Oops. Right now mine looks very dark, but it's going to dry lighter. Oops. I'm painting mine very quickly so I can finish it for the video and then come around and help anyone who's looking for help. Well, from what I could tell, everyone's got an understanding of the wet on wet technique, which I know has been a struggle for a while for some. Water control is one of the more difficult things to learn with watercolor, and everyone's got the gist of it at least. Okay. I didn't get around to filling in the center one. Right now I'm erasing it. If you have time, you can fill that one in. Same principles. It's one layer of cleaner water, or just a slightly tinted pink, and then drop in rings of the red. That's all it is. So in this case, I erased mine because I wanted to move it. I've got my red here. This is just extremely saturated, low water red on the edges here. Mine's blooming more than I'd like it to, actually. I can clean it up with a dry brush a little bit. Dry, clean brush. With these rings, I recommend starting on the outer edge and then gradually work your way towards the center. You want to make sure it's not too wet. You can tell if it's too wet when the paint kind of blooms everywhere. So you want the initial layer of the clean water to be very thin, no puddles. Make sure you remove the puddles, and then when you apply the red, your brush should have very little water in it and just a lot of pigment. That way these lines can stay very thin. I don't expect people to, or you to be able to finish this part because I'm finishing it just now. But if you have a little extra time to do this, you can finish this part. We do have about 3 minutes to 12